They have regular savings. These members contribute small amounts, which can vary from 10 rupees to even 100 rupees per week, and they deposit in a group bank account. And another feature includes internal lending. Whatever the money they have collected, those collected funds, they are used to give small loans to members at a lower interest rate. It can be for farming or education or business or any kind of emergencies. They also have bank linkages. Many of these self-help groups, they are linked to the banks or any kind of microfinance institutions, enabling them to receive formal credit and expand their activities. They are also they also have a democratic structure. All members participate in decision making, ensuring equal rights to everyone, all of those members, and also they share equal responsibilities. So, so a self-help group is a small community-based group which consists of 10 to 20 members who are primarily women, and they work together to save money, to provide loans, and to support each other. These groups play an important role in women's empowerment, poverty reduction, and financial inclusion in the rural India. And the key features which are discussed are firstly voluntary membership, and then regular savings, and then internal lending, and bank linkage, and democratic structure. So the objectives of these self-help groups are firstly financial inclusion. These groups, they provide easy access to credit for many poor rural families. Those families, they can't afford loans from banks because of high interest rates, and they also need to provide so many documents and all to get those loans. So generally, it's hard for these rural poor families to access loans from such traditional banks. And another objective is women empowerment. It helps women to gain financial independence and also decision making power within the families. It empowers them to take their own decisions within their families. So, another objective is skill development. These train members in handicrafts, tailoring, dairy farming, poultry, and small scale businesses. These groups helps the members of these groups to train themselves in handicrafts, tailoring, dairy farming, and any kind of skill in order to gain some financial independence. And then another objective is to provide employment or employment generation. It encourages self-employment, and it reduces the people who are migrating from rural areas to urban areas or to cities. It reduces that migration by helping them getting financially independent in their own rural areas. And another objective is social change. These groups, they promote literacy, they also promote health awareness, and they they work together collectively for problem solving in the communities, like in any kind of problems. They take decisions collectively, and they do meetings collectively. So it impacts a great social change. So the objectives of self-help groups are firstly financial inclusion, and then women empowerment, and then we have skill development and employment generation and social change. Some of the government supports for these self-help groups include firstly National Rural Livelihoods Mission, NRLM. It was launched in 2011 to provide financial and training support to the self-help groups. And it also encourages entrepreneurship among women in rural areas. And over 80 lakh self-help groups have been formed under this mission, which benefited around 9 crore rural families. And another government support, it includes NABARD's self-help group bank linkage program. The NABARD, which is National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, it was started in 1992, and it encourages banks to give loans to these groups at low interest rates. As of in 2023, over 12 million self-help groups are linked to the banks managing savings of over 47,000 crores. And another government support includes Mudra Yojana for women entrepreneurs. It provides small business loans to self-help groups at 0 to 4% interest. And it also encourages women to start taking up any kind of small businesses, such as like maybe like tailoring units or beauty parlors or dairy farms or some kind of shops, retail shops. So these are the three government schemes. Firstly, National Rural Livelihoods Mission. Another is NABARD's Self-Help Group Bank Linkage Program. NABARD stands for National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. And then we have Mudra Yojana. Now let's look into some successful self-help groups examples in India. Firstly, we have Lijat Papad. Lijat Papad, it's a small self-help group that became a multi-crore brand, which was started in 1959 by 7 women in Mumbai with just 80 rupees. Today, this Shri Mahila Griha Udyog Lijat Papad has over 45,000 women members. Initially, they started with only 7 members in Mumbai in 1959, but today they have 45,000 women members. In the in their annual revenue, it also exceeds 16,000 crores from selling papads, spices, or any kind of bakery products in India, and also they also sell in abroad. So this is one such example, Elijak Papad. And we have SEVA. SEVA stands for Self-Employed Women's Association. It was founded in 1972 by Ella Bhatt in Gujarat. It supports over 20 lakh women in crafts, agriculture, dairy, and small enterprises. This association, it also provides training, credit access, and marketing support. And another example we have is Kudumba Shri, which is one of the Kerala's largest women-led self-help group movement. It was started in 1998 by Kerala government. Over 45 lakh women members, they are involved in organic farming, food processing, tailoring, and catering various kinds of services. It generated around 6,500 crores in revenue in 2022. So the three examples which we have looked in India about which are successful self-help groups, they are firstly Lijat Papad, and then we have SEVA, which means Self-Employed Women's Association, and another is Kudumbashri. So what are the challenges faced by these groups? These groups, they have limited access to markets. Many self-help groups, they struggle to sell their products due to poor marketing and branding. And another challenge includes financial management. So many people, they don't have bookkeeping skills. They don't know how to maintain these finances, and they don't know how to calculate. They just don't have such skills. So it leads to misuse of funds just because of lack of skills. And another challenge is dependence on government aid. Some self-help groups, they rely too much on subsidies rather than becoming self-sustainable. And another challenge we have is lack of proper training. Members often lack business knowledge, which reduces their growth potential. So these are the four challenges. Firstly, they have limited access to markets, and then financial management, and then heavy dependence on government aid, and lack of proper training. Now let's look into some solutions, what we can do to overcome these challenges. Digital marketing and e-commerce. Government is helping self-help groups sell online through platforms like Amazon, Amazon Saheli, and Flipkart Samarth. And another thing is financial literacy programs, through financial literacy programs. Training the members of these self-help groups in banking, accounting, and entrepreneurship, which will help them manage their own finances and reducing the misuse of funds. And, and also improve credit facilities. NABARD and banks are offering high loan limits for self-help groups. So now let's look into non-governmental organizations in rural development. So what are NGOs? NGO means non-governmental organizations. These are some non-profit organizations that work independently of the government to promote social, economic, and environmental development. Functions of NGOs in rural development include women empowerment. NGOs like Seva and Pradhan, they train rural women in self-employment and also in leadership. And another function includes education initiatives. These NGOs also run rural schools and adult literacy programs and skill development centers. And they also provide healthcare services. They provide free medical camps, vaccinations, and awareness campaigns in remote villages. Also, they promote environmental conservation. They promote afforestation, water conservation, and organic farming. They also provide food, shelter, and rehabilitation during floods, droughts, and earthquakes. So these are some functions of NGOs in rural development. Firstly, women empowerment, and then education initiatives, and then healthcare services, then environmental conservation, and disaster relief. Some of the major NGOs working in rural development in India include Pradhan, which is Professional Assistance for Development Action. It focuses on livelihood promotion for rural families. It also trains villagers in sustainable farming, poultry, and small businesses. It also works in currently in states like Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Bihar, and Odisha. So Pradhan is one such NGO, and we have Barefoot College in Rajasthan. It trains illiterate rural women to become midwives and to become entrepreneurs or solar engineers. Over 3,000 solar engineers have been trained through this college, from this college, bringing electricity to 18,000 remote villages. And then we have Akshaya Patra Foundation, which is midday meal program. It provides nutritious meal to 20 lakh school children daily. It also improves school attendance and students' health in rural areas. And then we have Smile Foundation, which runs mobile healthcare units for maternal health and child nutrition. It provides vocational training to rural youth for employment. So these are some major NGOs working in rural development. Firstly, Pradhan, which is Professional Assistance for Development Action. And then we have College in Rajasthan, Barefoot College. And then we have Akshaya Patra Foundation and then Smile Foundation. So, what are some challenges faced by these NGOs? They often face with shortage of funds. Many NGOs they rely on donations and government grants, which are generally not sufficient to meet their objectives or criteria. And another challenge is bureaucratic hurdles. Government regulations and strict compliance rules they often create difficulties in NGO operations. And we have limited reach in remote areas. Some NGOs they struggle to operate in conflict prone or disaster affected regions. So the challenges faced by NGOs are firstly funding shortages, and then we have bureaucratic hurdles, and then we have limited reach in remote areas. So how can these be solved? Firstly, through public-private partnerships. So collaboration with companies and government agencies for funding and infrastructure support. This can play a key role to overcome the challenges. And corporate social responsibility programs. Many companies fund NGOs through CSR initiatives. CSR is corporate social responsibility initiatives, and also use of technology, mobile apps, online fundraising, and AI based monitoring for better efficiency. So, some of the solutions include public private partnerships, corporate social responsibility, and use of technology. Both self help groups and NGOs they play a crucial role in empowering rural communities and also in reducing poverty and improving quality of life. Government support, financial inclusion, and better market access, they are essential for their sustained success. So now let's look into challenges faced by rural communities. Despite the efforts of the government, NGOs, and rural communities, many problems they still continue to hinder rural development and livelihoods. These challenges include economic struggles, environmental issues, educational gaps, and also migration trends. Let's look into those challenges one by one. First, low income and poverty in rural areas. So, how widespread is rural poverty? More than 25% of India's rural population they live below the poverty line, and most rural families they earn less than 10,000 per month, which is often not even enough to meet their basic needs. And these small farmers and laborers and artisans they struggle with irregular income and financial insecurity. Also, women and Dalit communities in villages, they face even higher poverty levels due to the social and economic discrimination. So what are the causes of low income and poverty? Firstly, small land holdings. 80% of the farmers in India, they own less than 2 hectares of land, which provides low yields and low incomes. And these small farms, they are often dependent on again nature or monsoons, climate change, and they also lack modern irrigation facilities. And then the high input costs. The price of seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, and animal feed has increased significantly. Many farmers they take loans from money lenders at high interest rates, leading to debt traps. So they take money from money lenders at very high interest, and they come into a position where they are unable to pay those debts. It's more like a trap, and many small farmers are trapped in that money lenders' high interest rates. And another cause is lack of stable markets. Farmers often do not get they do not get paid fair prices for their crops. And the middlemen who buy the produce at low rates and they sell it at higher prices in the cities, which leads a loss to the farmers. Initially, they are not getting the money which they deserve, and these middlemen they buy that crop at low rates and they sell in the cities at higher rates. It's ultimately a loss for the farmer itself. And then we have government minimum support prices, MSP. They do not always benefit small farmers due to lack of awareness or corruption and limited job opportunities. Non-agricultural jobs like handicrafts, dairy farming, and also rural industries, they do not offer enough stable employment. Daily wage laborers, they earn up to only 200 rupees or 400 rupees per day, which is not enough for a family's survival. So some of the causes of low income and poverty are firstly small land holdings, and then high input costs, lack of stable markets, and limited job opportunities. Farmer suicides in India, there's more than 10,000 farmers who die by suicide every year due to debt or crop failures or even financial stress. States like Maharashtra, Telangana, and Karnataka, they have highest cases of farmer suicides. Lack of crop insurance and alternative jobs, they force farmers to take poverty, they force farmers into poverty and distress. So, what are the solutions for rural poverty? Firstly, promoting farmer producer organizations to help farmers get better prices and the prices that they deserve or which equals to their crop. And through strengthening rural credit systems to provide loans at lower interest rates. And through government skill development programs to create job opportunities outside agriculture. So let's look into another challenge, which is climate change and environmental issues. Over 50% of India's agriculture, it is dependent on rainfall, making it vulnerable to climate change. Disasters such as droughts and floods, they are becoming more frequent these days and they are heavily destroying crops and livestock. Also, soil erosion, deforestation, and declining groundwater levels, it's also making farming very hard. And fishermen and coastal communities, they are often affected by rising sea levels, pollution, and declining fish stocks. Some of the major environmental problems in rural areas include firstly, droughts and water shortages. States like Rajasthan, Maharashtra, and Karnataka, they frequently suffer from water scarcity, leading to crop failure. Groundwater depletion due to excess borewell use is making agriculture unsustainable. So, what could be the solution for that? One such great solution is rainwater harvesting or watershed management and improved irrigation. So, another environmental problem in rural areas is floods and soil erosion. Floods destroy crops, houses, and roads, affecting millions of rural families every year. For example, we have seen in 2020 Bihar floods, it displaced over 80 lakh people. It affected farmers and even small businesses. Through flood resistant crops and proper drainage systems, it could help. And another major problem includes environmental problem includes deforestation and loss of forest-based livelihoods. Over 3 lakh hectares of forest are cut down every year for farming and mining. Tribal communities that depend on forests for food, medicine, or even income, they are losing their livelihood. By promoting agroforestry and sustainable forest management, we can overcome this. And another problem, environmental problem, is agricultural pollution. Excessive use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides, it is polluting soil and water sources. So through organic farming, composting, and eco-friendly pest control methods, we can overcome this. So what are the major environmental problems in rural areas? Firstly, droughts and water shortages, and then we have floods and soil erosion. Thirdly, deforestation and loss of forest-based livelihoods, and then agricultural pollution. So what's another challenge for these rural livelihoods? It is lack of education and skills in rural areas. Only 66% of rural children, they complete primary education. Primary education, which is from first class to fifth class, and their dropout rates, they are increasing after class 5 due to poverty and for doing household works and also lack of schools. Girls' education is especially affected due to early marriage, domestic work, and safety concerns. Only 5% of the rural youth, they get access to technical and vocational training for better jobs. So what are the challenges in rural education? Firstly, poor school infrastructure. Many rural schools, they lack proper classrooms, teachers, they even lack teachers or toilets or even drinking water. For example, in Bihar, over 50% of the schools, they do not have proper toilets for girls, leading to the dropouts. And another challenge in rural education is shortage of teachers. Rural schools, they often have one teacher for multiple subjects due to the lack of staff. And the quality of that education is affected, especially for subjects like maths and science, which needs skilled teachers. Not any teacher can just teach maths or science. So another challenge for rural education is lack of digital access and online learning. Only 15 percentage of rural households, they have access to smartphones or the internet. And during COVID-19, rural students, they couldn't even attend online classes, leading to the learning gap. So what are the solutions for improving rural education? Some solutions are like midday meal schemes. It reduces dropout rates and it also improves nutrition. And by providing digital devices and internet access to the rural schools, and also through skill training programs like Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, it's for job oriented education. So what are the challenges in rural education? Firstly, poor infrastructure, school infrastructure, and then we have shortage of teachers, and then lack of digital access and online learning. So another challenge to the rural livelihood is migration to the cities. So why do these people migrate to cities? People migrate to cities from rural areas because there's lack of jobs and there's climate change. And also in cities, we have better education and healthcare. Villages, they do not provide enough or well-paying jobs outside agriculture. Hence, there's a lack of jobs. They can only be in agriculture. And there's not many other jobs other than agriculture. So they need to cities to find different jobs. And then climate change, droughts and floods, they force farmers to leave their lands and they come to cities to find works. And also for better education and healthcare. Many rural families, they migrate so that children can study and get medical facilities. So these basic facilities are also one of the main reasons why people are migrating to cities from villages. So what are the problems caused by rural urban migration? Firstly, slum growth in cities. Migrants, they often settle in overcrowded slums with poor sanitation and unsafe housing. For example, Mumbai's Dharavi slum, which has over 10 lakh people living in small huts. We find such slums almost everywhere in our country now. And exploitation of migrant workers. Many rural migrant workers in construction, factories, and at hotels, they are paid very low wages and they face unsafe working conditions, also lack of job security and no healthcare benefits. The things which they thought they would find in the cities, they are basically not finding them in the cities. They still face lack of job security, no healthcare benefits, and very unsafe working conditions. And another problem caused by rural urban migration is impact on rural villages. Villages are losing young and skilled workers. It is also affecting their agricultural productivity. And elderly people and women are left behind, increasing work burden on them. So, what are the problems caused by rural urban migration? Firstly, slum growth in cities, exploitation of migrant workers, and then thirdly, impact on rural villages. Developing these rural industries to provide local employment, it's one solution to reduce rural migration through developing rural industries and increasing farm productivity with better irrigation, mechanization, and cold storage facilities. And also through strengthening Manrega Program Act, which is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, to provide more jobs in villages. The challenges faced by rural communities, it requires long-term solutions, including economic support, skill development, environmental protection, and improved infrastructure. Sustainable development and government initiatives, they can create a better future for rural population. I'll just quickly summarize the challenges again, once again. One of the main first challenge faced by rural communities is low income and poverty in rural areas, and then climate change and environmental issues, and thirdly, lack of education and skills in rural areas, and lastly, migration to cities. Now, let's look into some solutions and future prospects for strengthening rural livelihoods. Rural livelihoods, they face multiple challenges, but through strong policy measures and entrepreneurship, also through education and climate resilience, they can help create sustainable development. The solutions require collaboration between government and private sector, NGOs, and local communities. One such solution we can look into is promoting rural entrepreneurship. It means by creating local business opportunities. So why is rural entrepreneurship important? Over 65% of India's population lives in rural areas, but their employment opportunities, it remains limited. And small scale businesses and self-employment, they can boost income and they can also reduce migration to cities. Also through promoting local industries, it will help preserve traditional skills and increase exports of rural products. So, what are the key areas of rural entrepreneurship? One is agro-processing industries. Agro-processing industries, they add value to agricultural produce. It helps farmers in earning high profits. Example through dairy processing, like making cheese, butter, ghee. For example, we have Amul model, Amul cooperative model. And then fruit and vegetable processing is also a great example by producing jams, pickles, sauces, and dehydrated fruits. And then we have spice processing, packaging and branding turmeric, chili powder, masala for national and international markets. Also, cold storage and warehouse. It's a great thing to take as an entrepreneur. It prevents post harvest losses, which accounts for almost 90,000 crores, 92,000 crore losses annually in India because of lack of proper storage. So, some of the key areas for rural entrepreneurship, it includes firstly agro-processing industries such as dairy processing, fruit and vegetable processing, spice processing, and cold storage and warehousing. And then we have handicrafts and rural artisans. Handicrafts and traditional industries, they provide employment to over 2,000 crore artisans in India. Famous Indian handicrafts such as Banarasi silk saris, which are from Uttar Pradesh, and then we have Pashmina wool from Kashmir, and Madhubani paintings from Bihar, and blue pottery from Rajasthan. Also, e-commerce for rural artists. Platforms like Amazon, Flipkart, and GoCook, they connect artists with the buyers. And small scale manufacturing and services like carpentry, pottery, metalwork, leather goods, and bamboo products, they also can create local jobs. Rural areas can promote repair shops, tailoring, and even transport services to generate employment. And the government initiatives to support rural entrepreneurs include firstly Startup India scheme. It provides funding and tax benefits for rural entrepreneurs. And also we have Mudra Yojana. It offers loans up to 10 lakh for small businesses. And we have scheme of fund for regeneration of traditional industries, which supports handloom, handicraft, and coir industries. So these are the two key areas of rural entrepreneurship. First is agro-based agro-processing industries, and then we have handicrafts and rural artisans. So another solution is for strengthening rural livelihoods. It's through strengthening government support for rural livelihoods. Why is government support important? Many rural businesses and farmers, they lack capital, infrastructure, and market access. Expanding existing schemes and launching new rural development programs will boost employment. For example, expanding Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Currently, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, it guarantees 100 days of work per year in unskilled manual labor. Future improvements, it include it can we can introduce skilled jobs such as carpentry, plumbing, and electrical work. Also through creating long-term employment in fisheries, dairy farming, and food processing, and through including rural women in skill development programs as well. So we can also strengthen the government support for rural livelihoods by providing better price support for farmers. Farmers often struggle with unstable market prices for crops. The solutions include expanding minimum support price (MSP), which government guarantees farmers a fair price for crops, and through improving agricultural infrastructure through by setting up more cold storage facilities to prevent the food wastage, and by expanding direct farm to market linkages like through electronic national agricultural market and through crop insurance and financial assistance. We have schemes like Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, which helps farmers recover from crop losses due to floods, droughts, and pests. And also we have KCC, Kisan Credit Cards, which provides low interest loans for buying seeds, fertilizers, and equipment. Also by investing in rural infrastructure through Prime Minister Gram Sadak Yojana for better rural roads and market access. Also through more rural electrification and internet connectivity to support digital learning and e-commerce. So another solution for strengthening rural livelihoods is through improving education and training for rural youth. Why is education important for rural development? Only 30% of rural youth, over 30% of rural youth, they drop out of class 10 due to lack of schools, financial issues, and even social restrictions. Skilled workers, they earn higher incomes and reduce rural unemployment. So modernizing rural education can help villages develop sustainably. Also through vocational training and skill development. such as agriculture training, like organic farming, dairy management, and poultry farming. And by teaching them technical skills such as carpentry, plumbing, electrical work, and also through handicrafts and traditional arts like textile weaving, pottery, woodworks, etc. And also through IT and digital skills such as computer literacy, digital marketing, and online sales. Some of the government initiatives for rural education and skill development includes Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, which provides free vocational training for rural youth. And we have Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gramin Kaushal Yojana, which helps rural youth get jobs in different sectors. And also we have e-Vidya and Digital India programs, which offer online learning for students in rural areas. So another solution for rural livelihood, strengthening of rural livelihood is through adopting climate resilient farming for sustainable future. Why is resilient farming necessary? Climate change is causing unpredictable rainfall, droughts, and floods, which impacts farmers heavily. As is rural livelihoods, that they are directly dependent on nature. And sustainable farming methods can improve productivity, conserve resources, and reduce costs. Also, through drought resilient crops and water conservation, by promoting climate resilient crops such as millets, pulses, oil seeds, which require less water and survive extreme weathers. And also through rainwater harvesting, which collects rainwater for irrigation and drinking. And then we have drip irrigation, which saves up to 60% of water compared to traditional farming. And then also through organic and sustainable farming techniques, such as vermicomposting, like using earthworms for natural fertilizers instead of chemicals, and through natural pest control, like using neem, cow urine, and herbal pesticides instead of chemicals, and through agroforestry by growing trees alongside crops for soil protection and additional income. So some of the government support for climate resilient agriculture includes National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture. It helps farmers adapt to climate change. And we have Soil Health Card Scheme, which provides soil quality tests and recommendations for fertilizers. And then we have Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sincha Yojana, which expands irrigation projects for better water management. So, so to strengthen rural livelihoods, we can promote rural entrepreneurship by creating local business opportunities and through strengthening government support for rural livelihoods and by improving education and training for rural youth and through adopting climate resilient farming for sustainable future. The future of rural livelihoods, it's diversifying income sources with rural industries, handicrafts, and agro-processing will it will reduce rural poverty. Also, by strengthening rural education and skill development, it will provide better job opportunities. Also, government policies must focus on long-term sustainability, market access, and financial inclusion. And also climate resilient farming and organic agriculture, it will secure India's agricultural future. With proper implementation and community participation, rural India can be economically strong and self-reliant and sustainable. If you have any doubts, please ask me. We have finished our elective paper, Rural Livelihoods Management. Then thank you.